treasure trove of weather keeping us very busy today. Tropical storm Jerry in the central Atlantic turning away as it continues to develop. Alerts, they're up for the Caribbean islands. And we have our nor'easter making waves off the east coast. Multiple days of heavy rain and wind for an already battered coastline and communities. Here to chat with us about it is Mike Boylan, storm chaser and blogger with millions of followers behind Mike's weather page. Mike, always good to see you. I want to start things off with Jerry. Tropical storm for now, and I know you're watching satellite. The thing doesn't look all that well.
It sure doesn't. The hurricane hunter's got more winds. It's just got a lot of shear. It's almost like a naked swirl in a sense, So not your typical looking potential hurricane.
It's certainly not. So 60-mile-an-hour winds, slow strengthening. We're eventually going to start to see this lift up. We have alerts already up for parts of the Caribbean, expecting to see those conditions go downhill. But my opinion is this is manageable for the islands, especially given what we're seeing with this storm and battling the shear already, and that environment doesn't change. A lot of the impact from Jerry is likely to be lopsided.
Yeah, and I had a couple comments this morning that it's beneficial. Like the islands rely on tropical waves for their water supply, so it's welcoming. They don't want mudslides and heavy totals, but they welcome these skirts for sure. And then Bermuda. I think the crazy thing this season is these curves. The number one question I get is what's causing all these curves, and it's amazing how we've had this pattern established in early August with basically cold fronts have been, blocking the U.S. and it's just crazy to see all this actually
play out, protect us. We needed it, right?
Yeah, it's a good thing. I mean, nobody can predict it. It's welcoming. Obviously we're shifting our focus to the Caribbean and Gulf now these last couple months.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're always looking closer to home. And it seems as though we're getting at least some type of pattern to develop over Central America that's favoring more the Eastern Pacific than what we would see that would bring a threat closer to home. So that's some good news.
Yeah, and another thing I just checked a second ago, I was surprised the ocean heat content is almost the highest it's been since 13, the graph I'm looking at. So there's potential energy there.
Oh, absolutely.
We just have to wait.
It's an untapped basin.
Exactly. And, our fall in football, I joke that everybody wants to just shut off hurricane season, especially here in Florida. And that's really when our time to really pay a little extra attention with these Caribbean little seeds that pop up like the Central American gyre, which you all have been showing. So until there's something there, we'll worry, but there's definitely potential there. Just have to hold our breath.
Yeah, I agree. You talked about the cold fronts and these stalled fronts that have protected the East Coast, but you're down in Florida, and I know you all know too well you've been stuck in this pattern where it's been so rainy. How does it feel to finally get a front that's expected to clear the state as we go through this weekend?
I know, 60. If you live in Florida, 70 feels cold, and we're going to be in the 60s. And that dew point's everything, once that dew point drops. But yeah, this coastal low is fascinating. We got a little spin south of Florida I just saw, and some of this is fueling some storms for, south part of the state. And watching this, develop here is still fascinating to me. I know it's frontal, but it's going to be tricky. 980 millibar pressured system, I remind people, it doesn't matter, like you all say, named or not, that low of pressure over the Gulf Stream, it's going to be sneaky. I mean, I was talking to a lady, Buxton. There's families that live there, and I think last year I heard a comment a lot about Florida. That's what you get for living there. And that's obviously being said there. But there's, I reminded people there's families that have grew up there and this is their home. And it's sad, it's just, seeing that. And now that they're going to have even more wins this weekend.
Memories and, just trying to shore up what they can for some of these homes that we know it's not a matter of if they're going to fall in, but unfortunately when they will. And this is the type of storm and setup that is going to likely lead to that. But you bring up a great point. You have the Gulf Stream there, very warm. And, I think we know there are fronts involved with this thing. And so even as this storm develops, it's not going to become tropical. But some models are still kind of hinting, aka the European, that we see something slow up and stall
Right.
Could that bring, some subtropical conversation into play? Doesn't really change the impacts here, but it would definitely maybe bring the National Hurricane Center into the ring.
Yeah, and that's what's confusing. Every 2 o'clock, 8 o'clock update, I'm like itching to see if we get a little yellow circle.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it doesn't fit the definition, and I get it. I understand totally. But
that's the challenging messaging, and I'm sure maybe you're getting questions about that too. Is when you have so many different ways to designate a system when you're in the tropic season, but also too it's the fall season, so you have cold fronts and troughs and all of which that just makes the communication side of this really messy.
Right, and I mean it all goes to me back to old school. Any pressure under 1,000 over water is sneaky. We had Ada a few years ago in 2020 flooded hundreds of homes here in Pinellas County. It was 60 miles off our coast, a 990 pressured system basically. I mean, and it pushed a lot of water. So, anything in the 980 range is going to bring wind and waves and storms and rain. So yeah, it's tricky. It's our tropical impact without a name this season so far.
It is, and hopefully we can keep the tropical impacts at bay as we go through the rest of the season. But of course, we'll be watching with this powerful storm on the East Coast. Mike, enjoy that cold front and the drop in those dew points as you go through the weekend. You guys are definitely well deserved for it.
I'm ready. We're going to Talladega for the NASCAR race next week, and I'll tell you all we can do live from the infield there. Last year I was tracking Milton at the races. I mean, that's how it seems like yesterday we were tracking Milton, and here we are 1 year later. It's
one year
crazy.
later, still telling those stories. Mike, we appreciate you coming on. Always love chatting with you.
Yeah, thanks, Jane.